Indeed, tapes rolling but muted. This is question 1 for Summer in Blue. Question 1 being, what is the meaning of this song? Summer in Blue, we've officially entered the back half of the album. This is track number 6 out of 10. This is the quote-unquote brother song of Faded City Lights. What happened with this song, with Summer in Blue? So I was just out of high school, the years following my high school graduation, 19, 20, 21. I found myself feeling pretty lost. A lot of the principles, ideas that I had held about life and how to live it were being proven wrong, just not true. And on top of that, I was really unsure of what to do with myself. I wasn't very pleased with school. I didn't like what I was doing in school, college. I didn't have any jobs that I was proud to have. I felt like I was totally lost, both out in the world and within myself. Naturally, that led to me being pretty sad a lot. But I came to a realization that losing these beliefs, being proven wrong about this, it doesn't necessarily have to end there. You know, it's not you're wrong and that's the end of it. It's okay, this was wrong, but now you have a chance to go forward and find what is right. You know, you were carrying on in your life, being guided by principles that ultimately weren't really true. And so now that you know what is true, or at least now that you know it isn't true, you can go find what is. And you can, it's kind of like, I think it was Edison, whatever, he said, I didn't fail 99 times in creating the light bulb, I found 99 ways to not create the light bulb, or something similar. And that's kind of what this was that yes, I failed, but it's not so much just that I failed, it's that now I'm closer to finding out what is actually true. And I took that idea as, okay, I'm gonna go out there, I'm gonna find what I wanna do with myself, I'm gonna make something of my life, I'm gonna make something of what I've been presented with. And it was in the summer when I was having this realization, and I said, well, this is it. This is the last time I'm going to spend a summer feeling this lost. This is the last time I'm going to be not sure what to do with myself. Because from here, I'm going to figure it out. I'm going to go forward and I'm going to find it. That's kind of the idea behind Summer in Blue. It's, yes, I'm lost right now. Yes, things have been stripped away from me. But now I have an opportunity to go forward and find what is really right, why I'm really here. That's kind of the idea of Summer in Blue. Writing Summer in Blue was at times a little frustrating. Anybody who's written a song or multiple songs, whatever, creating anything is a strange process. As far as creating a melody or anything like that, the only way to do it is to just kind of fiddle around, to just, pitter patter on your instrument or just hum stuff until you catch, oh, there it is. And of course, I did that for Summer in Blue. And what happens a lot of times, not a lot of times, but occasionally, you finish writing your song and you're like, oh, I didn't pull that melody out of thin air. I remembered it from somewhere. I remembered that melody from somewhere and I didn't realize that I remembered it from somewhere. Bruce Springsteen's song, Better Days. When I first wrote Summer in Blue, the verses were like note for note. I just straight up took that melody I love that song. And thematically, there's a lot of similarities. To say I wasn't inspired by that song, Better Days, that would just be a lie. There's a difference between being inspired by and just taking from. The first drafts of Summer in Blue were just like, you just took that. And it was only in the verses, the bridge, the chorus, like the real bones of the song were, of course, different. As far as I could tell, anyway. I had to rewrite the verses 3 or 4 times to really shake that. It's definitely still there now that I've told you about it. If you hadn't picked up on it before, you'll pick up on it now. But yeah, that was a bit of a roadblock in writing Summer in Blue. But the whole thing was very interesting. So what had happened with Summer in Blue, I was staying the night at my grandpa's house, maybe 2 years before I wrote the song. My cousins were in town, family gathering, that sort of thing. And I was laying there overnight, and the street lamp was coming in through the window, through the trees, through the blinds, and landing on his hardwood floor. And something about the line, soft light on hard floors. I was just like, I really like that. So I got out a piece of paper and I wrote, and I just kind of free-form, stream of consciousness wrote, filled up a whole sheet of paper. And I folded it up, put it in my back pocket that morning, and I ended up throwing it in a drawer somewhere. I sat down to write this song, and I was, trying to come up with something, and I thought, hey, where's that piece of paper? Because that had some ideas I remember liking. And I cleared, of course, it wasn't in the first drawer. I looked for the second. It was down the line, but I found it, and then it wasn't perfect word for word, but a lot of the ideas from that first note 2 years later got put into the lyrics for Summer in Blue. That was a nice little full circle thing. It's interesting how something you write, something you put together, it might not get used for 2, 3, 10, 15 years, but sometimes these things find a way back into our lives. This one, similar to being right in the middle of the album as far as the track lists go, this was also in the middle of the album for the recording process. This probably was the 5th or 6th song I recorded in the studio. We didn't strictly record the songs, start to finish, but we had overlapping tracks. We had days where we would just do we'd do 4 or 5 drum parts, or we would record all the bass parts. But largely, we'd come into the studio for the day, and we'd say, we're going to focus on Summer in Blue today, and we're going to try and really knock some of it out. And this one was high on the priority list because it was one of the singles. It was the last single to be released. I released this one the day before my birthday. It was November 6th. But we had this one recorded before that, of course. But this one was a little tough to record. I'll tell you about the lyric video in a bit, but you can see that's me in the studio recording the song actively. There are a lot of things in the song that really stumped me. So I put the drums in for all of the songs. I recorded the drums. But this one kind of kicked my tail. It was up tempo. It's an up tempo kind of song, and the bridge, I'm doing 16th notes on the hi hat. It starts off with the 16th notes on the hi hat, and then you start bringing the snare in, and you start moving around. You want to keep up that 16 note pace throughout the bridge, and you want to build as you maintain that 16th note pace, and it's fun. I love playing that part. But it was kicking my butt. Most of the drum parts that I would record, it was 2, 3, maybe 5 takes. There was a fill I didn't like, but we spent multiple days just trying to get that drum part. I'd have to go home and actually practice. Most of the songs, recording the drums, it's just like, let me get back there, let me do it. Because some of you know the drums, the drum set, that was my first love. That was my first instrument. I got a drum set when I was 12 or 13. And that was the first instrument I ever really sat down and, let me play this thing. I would play the crap out of that thing. So the drumming came pretty naturally to me, but for Summer in Blue, I would have to actually go home and let me put a metronome in my ears and really map it out and work on my endurance, work on technique. This one was a challenge to record specifically because of the drums, but also because of the harmonies. They're not super present in the mix, but there's harmonies in the choruses and in the bridge. In the bridge, we stack them. And I don't know what it is. I can't harmonize to save my life. I can't do it. It has always plagued me. I do melodies. I sing melodies. I'm used to singing whatever the lead is. I'll sing the melody. But we'd come to the studio, and if it was a harmony day, I can't do it. We had to put a lot of effort into the harmonies and a lot of effort into the drums. That was a whole thing. But we got there. Eventually. So I told you we were going to get back to the lyric video. As you can see, it's a pretty straightforward lyric video. I just brought the cameras into the studio with me. Literally, these cameras. I brought them into the studio with me. I just set up the tripod in front of the drum set, in front of the mic, in front of the guitar. Press record, and then Rob, the guy running the studio, would also press record, and we would play the part. A number of the takes that are in the lyric video are actually what ended up making it to the studio track. Obviously, some of them got cut for one reason or another. We didn't use that take. Mountains and mountains of unused stuff. That's any album that you see. There's just behind every really good take, there is a mountain of bad ones. Perhaps me specifically. I can't speak to others, but for me at least, that much is true. But yeah, I wanted to do this because in making this album, making all those social media content for this album, I asked myself, like, what kind of things do I really like seeing from artists that I like? And one thing I always love seeing from artists is kind of look behind the curtain. Let's take a look at the studio. What's the studio look like? What's your demeanor like in the studio? Just being able to see behind the scenes the creation of this piece of art that you really like. Now, I don't know if anyone feels that way about Summer in Blue, but this is the kind of video that with other artists I would have loved to have seen. And that was the whole idea there. And of course, I fill in some of the back with some old clips that make me laugh that I kind of wanted to give a shout out to some of my old friends. Hey, look, I put you in that video, and remember that? It makes me smile, and I guess ultimately that's the most important thing. Whatever. This song has more harmonization going on than any of the other songs. Like I said, I can't seem to do it. I'm terrible at harmonizing, and nothing hurts your ego more than listening to a playback of yourself singing improperly. And that's what the studio was. There's a lot of takes of me singing, trying to harmonize, and just being off, way off. So I don't do it a lot on this album, but this is the song where I do it the most. We played around with harmonies a good bit with this one. Like I said, this is the brother track for Faded City Lights, and an idea that I've always appreciated in songs, in music, any sort of art form, I suppose, is the idea of being in a darker place, but looking up. You know, maybe where I'm at isn't great. Maybe I messed up. Maybe I don't know what I thought I knew. But I'm going to continue. I'm going to move forward. I'm going to grow from this. I'm going to fix it, or I'm going to do something to change it, or ultimately, I still have hope. That's the idea. And that's not a unique theme in the album. There's a reason this one's kind of at the heart of the album. Track number 6, 5, 6. One of the key themes of the album is that, yeah, there's still hope to be had. And of course, that's interesting for a debut album. Start off by saying there's still hope to be had, but it's true. There's still hope to be had, both within myself and for the world at large. So this is a song that technically, I mean, the drums kicked my butt more than any other song, and the harmonies are more present than in any other song. But this is a song that is kind of leading the charge on the album. This is a song that if I'm playing a live show with a full band, this is my preferred ender. This is how I prefer to close the song. We hit that summer blues, pause, little drum fill, get back into it. That was tailor-made for a live show. I love doing that live. And that's kind of what's interesting about this song. I'd say that's what makes it unique.